Hey guys, it's Doxxz from Doxxztv. I welcome you to the 7.1.5 Beginner's PvE Guide to the Restoration Druid. My goal is to help beginners get a nice head start into playing Resto, as well as giving intermediate players a chance to refresh their memories on certain moves and abilities. In this video, I'm going to be going over the basic abilities that are necessary as you run raids and mythic dungeons, the suggested builds and talents for that raiding and mythic dungeons, the artifact tree and relics, stat priority and the importance of the stats, and a quick look at the 7.1.5 changes coming January 10th. The most important thing when you're taking a look at the Resto Druid is to notice that your main resource is mana. It is the only one for the Restoration Druid. All of your healing abilities cost mana, so managing it is the most important thing to do to make sure you do not run out during a raid. Taking a look at the core abilities, we have abilities in our spellbook such as Rejuvenation, Wild Growth, Swift Mend, Life Bloom, Healing Touch, Regrowth, Efflorescence, and Innervate. Rejuvenation is an instant hot, also known as Healing Over Time spell, which provides a small initial heal. This is one of the most frequently used spells, although it is not very powerful. Wild Growth places a hot up onto about 6 targets that are low. It usually picks the lowest members within range of the heal, so it's pretty good on effective healing. It also heals less and less as it ticks over time. Wild Growth is very expensive, so its usage should be used when there's a lot of burst damage you have to heal. Swift Mend heals the target for a pretty good amount of damage, and it's instant cast with a 30-second cooldown. It is pretty good to avoid spike damages and to heal someone up very quickly. Life Bloom is another hot that should only be used on the tank because you only have one target it can go on. Usually when it expires, it heals a target for a large amount. This also happens if you refresh it within 5 seconds remaining, which you should pretty much aim to do. Healing Touch is a relatively cheap heal with a long cast time and heals for a decent amount. Regrowth is an emergency heal such as Flashlight for paladins. It's got a high mana cost and a very low cast time. It heals for a large amount instantly and a small amount over 12 seconds. Efflorescence creates a healing zone that lasts for about 30 seconds, healing up to 3 raid members that's standing within it every 2 seconds. Innervate is a buff that you can place on an allied healer or yourself, which allows you to cast free of mana for at least 10 seconds. Important procs that you have to notice: when your Life Bloom ticks, you have a 4% chance to get a proc from Omen of Clarity, making your next regrowth cast within 15 seconds cost no mana. You should use these regrowths freely as soon as you receive them to avoid the procs overriding each other. When you critically heal a target with your direct spells such as Swift Mend, Regrowth, or Healing Touch, you place a buff on them lasting 15 seconds. When the target is attacked, the buff is consumed and the target is healed for 25% of the amount healed by the spell that triggered Living Seed in the first place. Restoration Druids also have a few healing and defensive cooldowns, as well as Essence of Gahanir, the artifact ability. Tranquility is a channeled spell that heals all raid members for a large amount of health over 8 seconds. This is an extremely powerful spell that should only be used during times of heavy raid damage and when you can actually use it for its full duration. Iron Bark reduces all damage taken by the target for 12 seconds for about 20%. It should be used on the tank to reduce huge amounts of damage coming in, or anybody else that's taking stupid damage such as fire. You also have a self buff called Bark Skin that works the same, but you can only use it on yourself. Essence of Gahanir increases the frequency of healing by your hots by 100% for 8 seconds and should be used to help deal bursts of AoE damage, assuming that you have a lot of hots. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at the talent tree for the Resto Druid. As you can see, there are 7 rows with 3 talents per row. In the level 15 area, we have Prosperity. Swift Mend now has 2 charges and its cooldown is reduced by 3 seconds. Your Cenarian Ward now protects friendly targets for 8 seconds. Any damage taken will be consumed by the ward and heals the target for 180% of spell damage over 8 seconds. Abundance. For each rejuvenation you have active, the cast time of Healing Touch is reduced by 10%. The critical effect of Regrowth is increased by 10%. Your level 30 talents, Renewal, instantly heals you for 30% of your maximum health, usable in all of your shapeshift forms. Displacer Beast teleports you up to 20 yards forward, activating cat form and increasing your movement speed by 50% for 4 seconds. Wild Charge now grants you a movement ability that varies shapeshift forms. And the different forms are: flies to an ally's position if you're non-shaped, Bear form charges you to an enemy and immobilizing them for 4 seconds. In cat form, it leaps you behind a target, dazing them for 3 seconds. While you're in boomkin form, it also bounds you backwards. Travel form, it leaps you forward 20 yards. In aquatic form, you swim faster for additional 150% for 8 seconds. On your 45 level talents, we have the 3 affinities, which will allow you to do various different things in different specs while you are Resto. First, you have Balance Affinity, which gives you Astral Influence, increases the range of all your abilities by 5 seconds. You also learn Moon Conform, Star Surge, and Lunar Strike. Feral Affinity increases your movement speed by 15%, and it also learns Shred, Rake, Rip, Ferocious Bite, and Swipe. Your energy regeneration is increased by 35%. Your Guardian Affinity also gives you Thick Skin, which reduces all damage taken by 6%. You also learn Mangle, Thrash, Iron Fur, and Regeneration, your Frenzied Regeneration. Your level 60 talents, you are given Mighty Bash, which gives you the power of Ursak and gives you to stun for 5 seconds, usable in all shapes. Mass Entanglement roots all targets in place for 20 seconds, spreads to additional nearby enemies. Damage may interrupt this effect. And you also have Typhoon, strikes targets within 15 yards in front of you, and it knocks them back. Your level 75 talents, you have Soul of the Forest. When you cast Swift Mend, you gain Soul of the Forest, increasing the healing of your next regrowth, rejuvenation by 200%, and increasing the healing of your next wild growth by 75%. Incarnation Tree of Life, shapeshift into the Tree of Life, increasing healing done by 15%, increasing armor by 120%, granting protection from polymorph effects, functionality of rejuvenation, wild growth, regrowth, and entangling roots is enhanced. Lasts 30 seconds. You may shapeshift in and out of this form during its duration. And then Cultivation. When Rejuve heals a target below 60% of health, it applies Cultivation to the target, healing them for an additional 144% of spell power over 8 seconds. Your level 90 talents, Spring Blossom. Each target healed by Efflorescence is healed for an additional 60% of your spell power over 6 seconds. Inner Peace reduces the cooldown of Tranquility by 60 seconds. In Germination, you can apply Rejuvenation twice to the same target. Your level 100 talents, Moment of Clarity. Omen of Clarity now affects the next 3 abilities, such as Regrowth or Restoration, Cat Form abilities, and Feral, and increases your maximum energy by 30. Stonebark reduces the cooldown of Ironbark by 30 seconds and increases the healing from your healing over time effects by 20%. And Flourish extends the duration of all your healing of times effects on family targets within 60 yards by 6 seconds. A very common raid setup that I also use, that I've noticed a lot of people using, but it's a personal favorite of mine, is to use Prosperity, Displacer Beast, Guardian Affinity, Typhoon, Soul of the Forest, Spring Blossoms, and Flourish. I use this spec because I like the multiple Swift Mends that we get during the raid, and whenever you use Swift Mend, your Soul of Forest activates and allows you to get increased healing done for your next abilities of Regrowth, Rejuvenation, or Wild Growth. Spring Blossoms is an extra hot that you add to any target that's standing within your Efflorescence. And since you're using this in a raid, you want to drop these on all the melee, so it just adds extra healing for everybody there. Flourish is pretty much overpowered when it comes to raids, because when you drop a overpowered Soul of the Forest Wild Growth, you can also use Flourish to extend the duration and get extra healing out of it. And when you're healing Mythic dungeons or Mythic Plus dungeons, it is important that you have to keep a good, solid mana regeneration. So when we're taking a look at the talents, I went ahead and switched out Cultivation, Germination, and Stonebark, the last 3 of the abilities down at the bottom. You can also use Mighty Bash if you would like instead of Typhoon. It's just personal preference. Cultivation is basically another rejuvenation. So when you're popping 2 rejuves on a target with an extra Cultivation, you literally have 3 rejuves going at the target during most of the fight when they dip below 60%. Stonebark also, since it increases your healing over 20%, it just adds more hot damage or healing done so that you don't have to cast any of your other healing spells, and it saves a ton of mana. Up next, we're going to be talking about the artifact weapon, the Gahanir, and the tree that they are given. This is the path that they recommend that we go. The path would be the Essence of Gahanir. 2 would be Nature's Vigil. Grove Walker is next, followed by Nature's Essence, Essence of Nordersoul, Dreamwalker, Blossoms of Gahanir. You could skip this if you want to get Tranquil Mind sooner, but take it immediately after that. 8 would be Armor of the Ancients. 9 is Blessing of the World Tree. 10 would be Tranquil Mind. 11 Infusion of Nature. 12 Persistence. 13 Knowledge of the Ancients. 14 Knowledge of the Archdruid. 15 Natural Mending. 16 Seeds of the World Tree. 17 Mark of the Shapeshifting. And 18 Gahanir's Bloom. Each artifact weapon that we receive in World of Warcraft right now has 3 relic slots in them. Most artifact trees are different. They have different styles, such as life, shadow, storm, iron, whatever your artifact tree has. For Gahanir, we are given 2 life and 1 frost. Relic choices that we can get would be Knowledge of the Ancients, which help alleviate some mana issues, Infusion of Nature, which could be useful for saving more mana, but only if you have an intense wild growth usage, Grove Walker, just in simple increase healing, Essence of Nodrassil, which is a good choice if you raid often within your efflorescence, Natural Mending, which can make your Swift Mend even spot heal, and Persistence, which will take a second added to your Rejuvenation. After we have the artifact tree down and we have the spells and abilities that we want to use, we need to talk about the stat priority that we are going to be looking for when we are gearing up and ready to do mythics and raids. There's a lot of problems that we are running into because usually in raiding and mythic raiding, it's starting to seem like they are different priorities and stats. Right now, raid healing, we have intellect, haste, crit, mastery, versatility as your 5 stats, but when you're doing mythic plus healing, it turns out that haste, mastery, crit is the way that you want to go. To get a better understanding how these things work, intellect is the primary stat. You want to look at this with all of your upgrades. It provides you with spell power, which increases the power of your heals. Haste is the most important because it lowers the cast time of all your heals, and it also increases the amount of healing ticks that each spell does. Mastery increases the healing you do on targets affected by your hots by an amount determined on your mastery level for each hot that you have active. Critical Strike increases your critically chance to hit all of your spells and abilities, and Versatility increases all your damage and healing done and decreases all damage taken. Why this is important to know is that when you're in a raid, crit will help you immensely and mastery doesn't seem as important, but when you're doing mythic pluses, unfortunately your mastery is going to overtake that because you're putting more single target heals on the tanks. The way that I balance this, I usually just go with a mixture between crit and mastery. Unless you know for a fact that you're not going to be doing mythic pluses, then you can just go full out crit haste. If you're going to be doing nothing but mythic plus healing, then you can definitely go haste mastery and you will be just fine. Finally, we're going to be taking a look at the 7.1.5 changes for restoration. The first one is going to be one of the talents. Renewal instantly heals you for 30% of your maximum health. It changed from a 2-minute cooldown to a 1.5 minute cooldown. Other things such as you get your general talents, a Displacer Beast, teleports you up to 20 yards, and movement speed of 50% for 2 seconds. Cooldown changed from 30 seconds to 40 seconds. If you want to look into your PvP talents, Prickling Thorns, when your Entangling Roots is removed, dispelled, or ends, the target will take 100,000 damage. It is now a balanced spell and requires level 8 down from 25. Also in 7.1.5, we are also given a new legendary, which is a pair of gloves. Allies protected by your Iron Bark also receive 25% of your healing of each of your active rejuvenations. That could be pretty broken if you're considering all the damage that you take. If you want to take a look at which legendaries are the best, I may not believe in that one being the best one, but it just all depends on what you get and what you find the best. Like right now, I love Tearstone of Elune. It was applying rejuvenation on wild growth targets, and it's extremely powerful. A couple others that I've seen people having, the Shoulders, Amothel's Wisdom. They also have the Bracers that, Swift Mend extends the duration of your healing effects by 10%. It just seems like it's important to find which legendaries work best for you that can help you achieve what you're looking for in raiding. And that concludes our video today. Hopefully it gave you guys a better insight on the beginning levels of being a Restoration Druid. If you're an expert looking to smash a video and decide that, oh, I'm better than what they are doing in these videos, and feel please to just leave a big comment as long as you subscribe. I don't care. But there's also opportunities and things that you want to look for. You can look at the Discord channel if you want to talk to some Resto Druids that are playing live, or you can just look at forums and stuff for Icy Veins or anything like that. But this guide just mostly for the beginners to get a good understanding of how to get a good start so that you can get into mythics and mythic raiding, and that way you can actually get to a point where you're going to be invited to raiding. Thank you and have a great day.
Do 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 do.